All right, so we're continuing to design our character. Next up will be the hair, and we'll basically be building that mostly within a symmetry object again, because I want her to have these like massive like pom-poms as a ponytail, kind of like I did in my drawing. And I'm kind of seeing that we're doing some form of spline object to kind of do some form of fringing on her forehead. And yeah, we'll, as always, be using ourselves of a lot of round, circular, and spherical shapes. But yeah, let's stop talking about it and let's actually get into working on it. So I'll go into Cinema 4D. So the first thing we can do is actually create a symmetry object that we can throw all of the stuff that we'll be creating into. So I'll come over to the usual place, create a symmetry object. We will drag this into our head node because we want all of the head details to be contained within here. And as you can see, the default position for the symmetry object to pop up is at the bottom here, and we'll want to zero the coordinates out. So it's at the 0 position for our head null. And I'll also want to throw a null into our symmetry object where we'll put all of our stuff in, because if we just start to add a bunch of objects within here, only the first thing within our symmetry object will be affected by the symmetry, like previously. So we'll create a null, we'll drag it into the symmetry object here, we'll zero it out so it snaps up to our center position here. We'll call this hair symmetry, or let's just call it hair null, and we'll call this one hair symmetry, like that. Perfect. And we will start with our massive ponytails, and of course, we'll start with a sphere. So I'll just come over to our primitives, create a sphere, drag it into the hair null, zero it out so we have it snap to the position, and I'll scale it down quite a bit, something like this. And I'll just drag it out so it's not bothering us too much, and we'll kind of roughly place it around somewhere around here. I'll head into the sphere attributes. I'm kind of happy with this size, but we'll go ahead and increase the amount of segments. And this is a pretty round shape, so we want a lot of detail here. So it's perfectly round like that. And I'll kind of just roughly place it around where I think I want it to end up. But I feel like this is pretty good. Yeah. And with those in place, I'll just go ahead and create another piece of sphere. So that will kind of be the base shape for our hair that we'll then build the rest of the shapes on. And then we'll kind of, like before, take all of our primitives and bring them into volume mesher and volume builder to kind of blend it all together and smooth things out. So I'll begin doing that by control dragging our sphere. And then we'll kind of drag it into our head. I'll just scale it down to somewhere around like 16, 17 centimeters. And I'll kind of just roughly position it around the place where I think we'll kind of like build the fringe. So somewhere around here, I might drag our ponytails out just so it's a bit more separated from the head. Something like this. I think that's looking good. And with that, I kind of also want to add some ears before we even get into building on the hair shape. So we can actually just move this up just slightly. Something like that. We can go ahead and create a torus that we'll build our ears from. So I'll create another primitive torus, drag this into our hair null, zero out the coordinates, so we snap it up, scale it all the way down, move it out, and then I'll just rotate it 90 degrees like that. And I mean, this is really up to you in terms of what kind of sizing and what kind of shape you want for the ears. I'll kind of keep going along with our really chunky shape language, so I'll kind of size them to something like this, place the ear somewhere around there. And I think the ears and the base of our hair is kind of intersecting a bit too much. I'll just drag this base in just a bit. It's fine if it's intersecting a bit. We'll kind of hide those intersections anyways, but something along these lines is where I'll kind of move on. So we'll kind of start to add these sweeps that will kind of act as our fringes. So like, for example, when we did our laces, these ones, we'll want some form of sweep object that we can like extend and wrap around and stuff and like scale down on certain places. So naturally a sweep kind of works best for that. So I'll start by creating a circle. So we'll come over to our splines, add a circle. Like always, I'll actually go ahead and drop this into our hair base sphere here, because that's in a pretty good place, so we can just zero out all of the coordinates there. I'll grab my scale tool, scale it down, something like that. And with that there, we can actually create a sweep object so we can see what we're kind of working with. So I'll hold Alt, release on the sweep. I'll duplicate this circle so we get a shape to sweep it with. And I'll scale this down to maybe somewhere around here for now. And scale this down quite a bit as well, something like that. And now we can actually kind of start to rotate this a bit more freely to a point where we kind of start to see what we're trying to do. So I'm kind of seeing some form of hairstyle once I kind of do this, and this is completely up to you. You don't have to do exactly like I'm doing, but yeah, this is the sort of shape that I want to create. And obviously we want this to end somewhere around here, so we can actually go ahead and just shorten this, maybe set them to 50%, or not 50, but maybe like 60%, something like that. And we'll want to add some rounded caps on this too. And I'll add some segments, great. And maybe I'll want to shorten it on this end as well, something like that. Actually, no, let it actually intersect there. I'll just be kind of shifting things around just to a point where I'm happy. But I kind of want her fringe to be, yeah, something like this. And I'll want to add another shape on top of this as well. So I'll actually duplicate this sweep, control drag it up, kind of try and shape it to a point where I feel like it's, where I think it's mimicking some form of hairstyle. I think I need to rotate this one in front a bit first, so maybe something like this, and then I'll extend the cap just a bit, like something like that. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. I'll kind of rotate this one so it's at least, I'll kind of rotate this one so it's not intersecting as much, and I'll also go ahead and just shorten the ends on this one, something like that maybe. Okay, well, we won't get too much stuck into these details. We can adjust these once we are trying to blend them together as well, so don't get too attached while doing this. But I'll maybe scale this down just a bit, something like that. And I also kind of want to add some small fringes here at the front. Maybe want to move this one out just a bit like that. And one thing that we actually can do is kind of use these tapering tools that we used previously. So I'll kind of try and see where the end would be in this case, but I think we need to invert this. Yeah, something like that. Just so we can kind of taper it where we kind of want, somewhere around there maybe. Maybe move this out just a bit like that. Okay, let's add some more fringing parts here. So I'll go ahead and duplicate this front fringe sweep here. So just duplicate that, I'll drag it out, I'll scale it way down because I want this to be just small parts of smart detailing parts of the hair. Something like this. And we'll just kind of scale this circle down a bit. Oops, scale this circle down a bit as well. And I'm kind of just moving things around to a point where I'm happy with this. So this is nothing, this is just personal taste working its magic. But yeah, we'll also be, as I mentioned, throwing this into a volume builder, which will kind of change the appearance of it quite a bit. So yeah, don't get too stuck into these nitty-gritty things. But yeah, we'll move on from there. One thing that I do want to add are some kind of like hair strands that are hanging down in front of her ears, then kind of like these pieces of string that we have. So it's kind of like blowing in the wind. I think that's going to look really cool. So naturally, we can actually just take these sweeps and just apply them to our hair. So I'll actually just come over and select one of these sweeps from our strings, and I'll control drag them up to our hair null. And I'll just zero all of these coordinates out like that. I'll go ahead and drag it, rotate it 90 degrees, something like that. And I'll kind of just roughly place it where we would want to have it, somewhere along here. I'll play this to see how it's kind of, yeah, I'll want to probably rotate this up 90 degrees so we're getting the move. Yeah, exactly. The wind movement is kind of following the original wind that we had in place. But obviously we don't want a completely symmetrical version of this, because obviously since the wind is coming from this way, this would blow kind of in front of our face. I can just go ahead and drag the sweep completely out of our hair symmetry like that. And we'll go ahead and just move the sweep up just a bit, and I'll scale the sweep up, something like that. And I kind of want it to taper off at the end here. So again, we'll come down to our sweep object and we'll start to play around with these values. So it will be this end that we're kind of tapering it off on. So kind of something, yeah, I'll maybe drag it all the way down to the bottom so we're kind of clipping it. That's looking really nice. And since we have this helix parametric object here, I can just easily increase the length of this how much I want. So really handy to have. And I'll just rotate this, try and play it, see how it feels. Yeah, that's looking really nice. Great. And as I said, I'll want to add another one on the other side, and I'll go ahead and duplicate this one. We'll check the coordinates, and if we just invert this x position value to, instead of minus 19, we'll set it to positive 19. We'll do that. And I'll kind of just try and angle this so it's kind of blowing in a natural direction. We'll try and see how this is playing out. Might actually want to bend this helix. I think so, because it's not, we can't really rotate it since it's just a straight shape. So it would kind of make more sense to bend it. So I might just want to do this. Let's rotate it out just a tiny bit. And then we'll go ahead and add a bend deformer. So I'll create a bend deformer, add this into the helix, go into object, set fit to parent, and you're going to see some crazy stuff now when we try and bend the spline, because this is something that Cinema has never really gotten to work. For some reason, it just sets the size to 0. But if we set both of these to 1, now we can kind of start to see what it's doing. But yeah, it's on the wrong alignment. So we'll need to, we'll try with plus X, set fit to parent, set this to 1 and 1. Still wrong. Fit to parent, 1, 1. Yeah, here we go. Still wrong direction. So minus Z, 1, 1. Perfect. And we'll keep length. And I can actually go ahead and adjust the bend angle here. Something like this. Yeah. And I might actually want to bend the wind as well, so we're getting some more interesting movement here. Just experiment with these values to a place where you are happy. So something like this, maybe. See how that feels. Maybe a bit less of a bend, I'd say. Something like that. Yeah, that's nice. I like the way that's moving. Perfect. Okay, so now we obviously want to blend all of these shapes together like we did with our boots, because right now it's just a bunch of primitives put together. So we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll start by adding a volume builder. Now, the only problem is that we don't want to blend all of the objects within this hair symmetry. For example, we don't want to blend the ears, and these ponytail shapes aren't really necessary to blend because they can be a separate part of the hair, I think. I'll actually just move these up just a bit. I think that's going to feel a bit better. Yeah, okay. So what we can do is actually duplicate our hair symmetry object. So I'll go ahead and make a complete duplicate out of this one. I'll name one hair symmetry blend, and one is just going to be called hair symmetry. So I will delete all of the parts that forms our fringe in this other one. So I'll delete that, and then I'll delete the ponytail and the ear from the blend hair symmetry. So I'll just delete that. So now we can see that we have two separate symmetry objects for this. So with that in place, we can actually go ahead and put this hair symmetry blend into its own volume builder and just make sure that we have all of our fringe sweeps here as well. So I'll just make sure that I have my hair symmetry blend object selected. I'll come down to the volume builder, hold Alt, let go, and then we'll add a volume measure on top of that too. And we'll go ahead and set this to somewhere around 0.25. We want a lot of detail in this one. And immediately we can see that we just don't have enough detail for our sweeps here, even though if we would smooth this in the volume builder, it would still not be enough. So we can come over and open up both of these sweeps. We'll select its bottom circles and we'll set this to maybe 24. Oops, I need to do this to this one. 24, like that. So this is enough detail, I think. So now we can actually go ahead and add a SDF smooth within our volume builder. So I'll just add that. And now we're starting to go somewhere at least. I think I want to just move these top part of the fringes back just a bit. It will be a bit heavier to move these around right now when we have our volume builder activated. So if your computer can't handle it, just turn them off temporarily. I like to have them on, even though it might be a bit slow, because then we can kind of see, we can just see the final result of our design just a bit better. So I'll just kind of try and do the impossible and make something look good. Scale these up actually just a bit. And just move them in. This is all part of the process, just tinkering around for endless hours. Kind of rotate this back a bit, maybe scale it down. Then move it back, see what that does. All right, I think we need to be happy with this. We can't get stuck in this for too long. But we do want to add these hair strands that's flying in the wind into our volume measure as well, just so it doesn't feel like these are just plucked onto the surface of the hair. So we'll just take these and drag them into our volume builder, but we'll make sure that we're not placing them into our hair symmetry blend because we don't want them to be symmetrical. So we just pull those in. They will not be affected by our smooth, so we'll need to make sure that the smooth is on top of the sweeps. And once we do that, we can also see that since they're so thin at the ends here, we're not really getting that detail back once we smooth it. So we'll just select both of these and come into our details here under our objects tag, and we'll just increase the size here just a bit, something like that. And we'll also go ahead and rotate this one out. Perfect. And we'll just kind of see how this feels. Yeah. Nice. This is looking great. Starting to get really happy with this actually. And I'll actually just go ahead and, for the last time, just move these something like this. That makes me happy. Something that I also want to add is some kind of a hairband or something, so we're not seeing this intersection between the ponytail and the hair base. I don't think we'll actually see this from our angle, but I think it can be a nice touch just to see whatever it is tying these ponytails up from the hair. So We'll come into our hair symmetry where our ear and our ponytail is. And I'll kind of want just a torus wrapping around this edge. So I can just actually go ahead and duplicate the torus for our ear and just drag it and drop it into the sphere. I'll zero out the position coordinates, and then I'll just drag this out and I'll just scale it to roughly a size where I think it will fit. And since we have the torus as a child to our ponytail, I can actually just go ahead and rotate the sphere instead. And we'll kind of just try and position this at a place where we feel like it is in the right spot and making sense. So something like this. Doesn't need to be perfect from all angles, just from whatever angle you're viewing it from. So I'll just kind of try and do something like this. Yeah, this is doing the right stuff. Maybe rotate it up just a bit like that. Nice. All right. Maybe we can just briefly take a look at the segments that we have going on here. So obviously the volume measures are super, super heavy, but they just have to be because we need that information. But the kind of hairband we have here with our torus, we can easily just go ahead and introduce some more ring segments. Maybe I'll set it to 64. I'll just increase this torus for our ear a bit as well. So maybe 24 on the pipe segments and 64 for our ring segments. And I'll actually just name this ear as well, just so we're clear what this is. And yeah, with that, I think we're actually done with the design part of our hair. We might come back and tweak things once we add some materials, but I think it's looking really, really good. One thing we can do before we just end this one is just to kind of try and group these different hair parts together, since we have split them up into different objects. And I want the hair group to be at the 0 position of the head. So I'll just create a null, I'll drag it into the head, and I'll set it to 0 coordinates within the head null. I'll call it hair, and I will just make sure that we pull all of our hair objects into this one. And if I move it around, I'll see what I've actually put in there. And yeah, with this one, things are starting to really look nice over here. We're definitely getting somewhere. So we're just gonna keep going into the next lesson and keep adding some details. We'll be adding some additional details to the clothes and some gloves and stuff. So yeah, I'll see you over in the next lesson.